This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
I'm KJ Wright from the Seattle Seahawks, and you are watching Norb-Cam.
What's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you with another breaking news report. It sucks that I have to even mention this story, but this is the reality that we're living in here. This video, by the way, is brought to you and sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. All right, so Uchenna Nwosu, pass rusher for the Seahawks, was playing in that final preseason game against the Cleveland Browns. And one thing that I hate about preseason, which is why we should really not even play our starters early in the preseason, because this is the worst case scenario. Nwosu in the first defensive possession by, or as I say, the first series by the defense of the Seahawks, got caught up in a chop block. Basically, a chop block is where you got an offensive blocker hitting him down low and hitting him up top at the same time. Well, the result of that chop block was Nwosu came out of the game with apparent injury to his knee, went to the tent, then was sitting on the bench for a while with an ice pack on his knee, and then eventually went to the locker room for further evaluation. So we don't know the extent of his injuries, but it was serious enough to prompt this trade where the Seahawks traded for the Jaguars to get Trevis Gipson, outside linebacker, pass rusher, for a they basically inherit his deal. It's a one-year deal, $1.3 million. And in exchange, the Seahawks give the Jaguars a 2025 sixth-round draft pick. Now, this might sound familiar, like, wait, didn't we just do a trade where we gave up Darrell Taylor to get a sixth-round draft pick? Well, that's exactly what happened. So essentially, we kind of just, the fact that we got a sixth-round pick and now we just gave it away, essentially we ended up swapping players. So we gave up Darrell Taylor to now get Trevis Gipson. So that's all the result of this injury. Now, I can't stress enough, and this is obviously why the Seahawks made this move. They needed to shore up that now strained depth at pass rusher, outside linebacker. And again, we're all holding our breath here to see how serious the injury is to Nwosu. But if you guys recall last year, we were a tale of two defenses. There was the defense when Nwosu was healthy, and then I think he tore his pec or something. That was what the injury was, knocked him out of the season. And then there was the defense after Nwosu was hurt, and they were two totally different teams. Unfortunately, we got the worst of it, ended up being second to worst defense in the league, and really that all happened after Nwosu left the team. So can't express enough how important Uchenna Nwosu is to this team, which is why this injury is so monumental in terms of what it could do to impact this defense. And it just sucks that this happened in a pointless, meaningless preseason game. As soon as I saw him down, I was like, oh, no, not. Can't have that. And sure enough, you know, limps off the field. Dog's off the field limping, but then I saw him sitting on the bench. Anyway, so that's where we stand now, while we wait for the diagnosis of that. So what does that really mean in terms of what have we gained, what have we lost? So now that we've had this trade, again, Darrell Taylor for Trevis Gipson. Well, let's look at the numbers here, shall we? Let's see what Trevis Gipson has done. I pull up a few of his numbers here. So Trevis Gipson, career-wise, you know, look at sacks first, 11 sacks. He also is very much like Darrell Taylor in terms of his years in the league. Came in 2020 and played 21, 22, 23, much like Darrell Taylor. 11 sacks, 42 solo tackles. And there's more things we're talking about, but basically he didn't really play. He played 7 games in his first season in 2020, 16 games, 17 games, and then only 8 games once he left Chicago and went to Tennessee, where he had, I think, just had a 1 sack last year. So let's go look at Darrell Taylor for a minute. Similar games, although Darrell Taylor was out his rookie season, played 16 in 2021, 16 in 2022, and then 17 games in 2023. Much higher sack numbers here, 6.5, 9.5 was his high. 5.5 for 21.5 sacks versus I said about Travis Gibson. 7 sacks was the high, 11 sacks total for his time. Again, 42 solo tackles. Darrell Taylor, 67 solo tackles and 91 assist tackles. Travis said 81 combo tackles. So productivity-wise, I'd say that Darrell Taylor had the higher numbers. But one thing that is something worth looking at is if you look further down the stats, there is a more advanced number here that you can look at. And this is, actually I have a comparison page here, but kind of compared the two players next to each other. Again, we got the 11 sacks versus 21.5, 67 solo tackles for 42. But in terms of one of the issues that Darrell Taylor had was, the run defense. And here, Darrell Taylor in this column, you can see he's got a 15% missed tackles percentage of 16 missed tackles, 11% and 10 missed tackles for Gibson. So maybe a little bit better tackler, maybe against the run. Definitely not as much productivity in the sack department. But if you also look at the blitzes, Taylor blitzed 45 times to get those sack numbers, whereas Gibson only blitzed 15 times. So, sometimes it's not, the number of sacks, but how often do you get there when you're sent? So 45 to 15, that's a heck of a lot higher ratio of opportunities that Taylor had. So maybe it was just sheer attempts that he got those higher numbers. So we can only hope that Gibson versus Taylor, maybe Gibson can have make up for that productivity here in the Mike McDonald defense. The other thing too is that he's a little bit cheaper because Darrell Taylor would have been a $3 million cap hit versus $1 million here for Travis Gibson. So we'll see what happens. Again, look for the news later this week when we find out exactly what the status is of Uchenna Nwosu. Couldn't come at a worse time, like 2 weeks before the season opener, to have Nwosu go down. And then on top of that, Artie Burns. There's another one too. Artie Burns had some kind of a foot injury as well, and he's also one of those guys who pretty much had, the corner spot pretty much locked down in terms of being like the third or fourth corner. So it'll be interesting to see how serious his injury is and what that might do with a very crowded cornerback field. Maybe one of these other guys. You got DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, Trey Brown, and a bunch of other guys, that might open up a spot for one of them if Artie Burns has to go on the disabled or injury list. I hope they don't. That means if they go on the injury list, that means they might miss the first 4 games. And man, these first 4, the season schedule is tough as it is, but really, Seattle's got an opportunity to start this season 2-0. And we got to get those games because the 49ers, they could potentially start 4 or 5-0 the way the schedule is looking right now. So Seattle's going to need to get as many games as they can, especially on the ones that they should win. And those first 2, the Bronco game at home and the game against the Patriots at Gillette Stadium, they should win those 2 games. They really should. Rookie quarterbacks, team on the rebuild. So, but this doesn't help matters, definitely from what we saw last year with Nwosu's, how critical he is to this defense. But we shall see. We'll keep an eye on the report on both those players and get back at you as we prepare for the regular season opener in about a week and a half. So, make sure that you like this video, subscribe. Feel free to comment your thoughts on this trade and the situation with Nwosu, and I'll have more updates with you as the week goes by. Again, this video is being brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
So if you do decide to partake in some online gambling, definitely check out BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And make sure you're of the legal gambling age and that your state has legal online gambling in it. All right, so in the state of Washington, there's some little rules that you can't exactly do that. You got to be on tribal lands to do it. But other states, it's totally legal, but you got to check your local regulations for that. If you decide to do it, they do have a promotion going on right now that if your first 3 deposits, you decide to put some money and they'll try your hand at gambling, they will match you 125% of your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. So I've said this many times on other videos, but it's pretty cool because if you basically put in $100 to gamble with, they will match it 125 on top. So if you put in 100, they'll give you an extra 125, so you have 225 to play with. If you put in 1,000, they'll give you 1,250 to play with. So it's pretty cool, but just make sure you gamble responsibly. All right. All right. That's it. We'll see you guys next time, and keep your fingers crossed. Come on, Uchenna. We need you, man. We'll be in touch. See you later. Go Hawks.